recording.
What number guest am I?
5.
Nice.
But I think I'll put your video out third.
No.
A lot of there are a lot of girls and only 3 guys.
Okay.
So I want like a good.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Are we good?
Cool. Let's start.
Yeah. Let's go.
Hey Suraj, welcome to my show.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course, it's called Talking to the Moon, and you're the moon today, and I'll be talking to you. Guys, we are at Georgia Tech right now. This is the very famous DM Smith room, which we just spoke. This room has seen a lot of meditation sessions over the years by Georgia Tech Meditation Club, which is where I met Suraj, maybe 1 year ago or something. And that is going to be our topic of discussion today, meditation and things related to meditation. So, before I start, I want to tell our guests that we have like regular sessions at the meditation club. And whenever Suraj conducts a session, he always starts it with an icebreaker. And he has the best icebreakers there are possible. So I'm going to start with an icebreaker today.
Perfect.
Okay, so tell me one thing that made you happy over the past week.
Oh my gosh. One thing that made me happy over the past week. So I've been really new to rock climbing.
Okay.
And one of my New Year resolutions has been to try new ways of being active that I'm not particularly comfortable or used to.
Okay.
And so this week, something that I'm proud of is that I went rock climbing twice.
Okay.
And on Tuesday, I got certified to belay, which is to be the person at the bottom.
Oh, wow.
As the person's like going up on the ropes.
Right.
So yeah, it was really exciting.
Oh, awesome.
What about you?
Okay, something that made me happy this week is the fact that I'm going to be like launching this thing to the world this weekend.
Oh my gosh!
Because it's spring and everything, so I was like, let's launch it to everyone this weekend.
That's
so,
awesome.
Look, I was looking forward to this, and that made me happy.
Congratulations!
Thank you. And speaking of happiness, I was watching your TEDx talk. Which you all should watch. I'll link it in the video description below. The title of your TED talk and also your Instagram bio says "Screw Happiness."
Yeah.
I found that very interesting because a lot of meditation workshops or advertisements are centered around sort of selling or advertising happiness and meditation as a means to achieve happiness, if that is also something that could be possible. So, could you tell me a bit about this motto of screw happiness that you have?
Yeah, I think for me, it kind of, as being someone who has been teaching meditation now for, let's see, the exact date would probably be about 7 years now, and meditating for around 9 years.
Wow.
For me, even like growing up in the US and just like in our current generation and culture, I always grew up with posters and with the messaging of like, just do what makes you happy, follow your passion. If you love what you do, then it never feels like you're working a single day. And with all of those messaging growing up, and being in the middle of college and feeling like I've learned all of these things, I've internalized all these messages, and life still doesn't feel happy. Yeah. I think to that point, it really got me exploring into like, what do we mean when we say happy, and what exactly are we chasing? And the common phrase of like, I just need X, Y, and Z. Once I get X, then I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And I found myself a part of that treadmill of goals and wishes again and again of like, I just need this, I just need this, I just need this person to do this, I just need this professor to give me an A, I just need the internship to accept me, and like all that stuff. And so then really rethinking like, what does it mean to be happy? And really, I don't know, I think screw happiness is saying like, let's screw that narrative and redefine it for ourselves.
Right.
Let's understand that like pain and meaning are much more of what gives our life purpose.
Right.
And that in order to truly love or appreciate or feel empathy, it requires this sort of balance or this push and pull of pleasure and pain. And that maybe that is something that's worth striving for rather than this vague idea of becoming happy forever.
Okay, that's really interesting. And when, like, around the time you realized this, had meditation already been like a part of your life, or it happened later? How was it intertwined with this timeline?
Yeah, I mean, I think meditation has almost always been a part of my life. So
Okay.
I've grown up with parents that have both been meditation instructors
Oh wow, okay.
in their free time. So
Right.
like they have their full-time jobs,
Yeah.
and then they will just have people for free like show up at our house and come to meditate. And I didn't
Yeah.
start meditating until I was much older, like until I was in high school. But I would
Okay.
just see people come in. And so I think for me, like, there's always this sense of like questioning of like, what does it mean to be authentic? What does it mean to be real? And then with college, that sort of came into head where I had started meditating. College made me realize I needed meditation a little bit more than I did previously.
Yeah.
And then really coming to head where it's like I am meditating. I still feel sad.
Yeah.
I am pursuing something that like I originally thought was going to make me happy, and like I'm still not feeling satisfied on a day-to-day basis. I don't feel that quote-unquote happiness.
Right.
So it's just like, how do I redefine this narrative for myself?
Okay.
That's where it started.
I see. I remember one incident that you told us. You were like, I think in 3rd or 4th grade,
Yeah.
and you came home really angry from school, and without even your parents saying anything, you just went and you just sat with your eyes closed, and your parents were like, "Wow, like what's happened with this guy?" So this is just one memory, but do you remember very vividly one of the earliest memories of you like actually sitting down seriously to meditate?
Yeah, I mean, my first memory is in Chennai, in India. So we would go almost every year to India, but I remember my parents almost every other year we would go and spend a summer, visiting family in India, and then also meditating, or just, they would meditate at different meditation centers. And the teacher for Heartfulness, his name at that time was, he was Chariji. And he, for me, was this like really intimidating, tall grandfather figure who just like was so well versed. Like he knew everything, right? He was, whenever he spoke with such he was often compared to a lion.
Okay.
And he spoke with a sense of like surety, and
Right.
he like knew. He had read so many books, and he like loved reading and watching movies. Because at some point, he started watching movies because he couldn't read anymore.
Right.
Like his eyesight got a little bit poor. But he could just pull out references while just sitting, right? And like he had traveled a lot, like to Germany and to like different countries in Europe, and was very well traveled, right? And so he could call out people, people who thought too much of themselves, who were like, I'm a really important businessman. Like, what am I? Why am I?
Yeah.
What can you possibly teach me
Right.
that I don't know? He
Right.
could just call you out on like the things that the kind of lies that you tell yourself.
Right.
So, anyways, I remember when I turned 17, I asked him, because at that time they recommended that if you start meditation, it should be at the age of 18 or older, just so that it's a choice that you're making.
Right.
For me, I had been thinking about it for since I was 15,
Yeah.
and I had asked him at 16, and he's like, wait. And then when I turned 17, it was like summer of my junior year. I got there to Chennai. He was there in this meditation center, and I asked him if I could meditate with him. He could teach me, and he gave me my first session.
Right.
And it was like he asked me to come in the front. It was his bedroom, and then there was like a hallway outside. And I remember he would do it was a group session. So there was 40 or 50 people that suddenly came out of nowhere and just started filled his entire bedroom, the hallway, all seated on this marble floor, or I guess tiles, and then, and of course it's India, I'm not wearing socks, my feet, the bottoms of my ankles, I'm a spoiled American kid, so it's I'm just like not used to sitting cross-legged on the
Yeah.
cold floor.
Yeah.
And then he seated, he was at that time in like a wheelchair situation, so he was seated on a chair and he'd asked me to sit right in front of him, and there were two other people that were starting meditation for the first time as well. And so he's seated there, I'm sitting right in front of him, and then there's like 50 other people like stretching out outside, and he says, please start.
Yeah.
And he asked like if we know what to do, and I was like, I think so. Like I had heard my parents, I'd overheard them explaining it to other people over so many years.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, like light in the heart, divine light in the heart. I think that's what it is.
Right.
And then like the other two people, they were kind of a little shy, and they were also like, yeah, I think so. And then he just said, please start. And that was it. Like no relaxation, no
instruction.
like no real instruction, no verbal instruction, right? And then the moment he said, please start, the session, usually Heartfulness sessions don't last more than an hour. That session lasted an hour and 20 minutes.
Wow.
But I will say, I felt mostly nothing.
Right.
But there was a moment in between where I could feel like it was almost like when you're kickstarting a scooter or a motorbike, and you're getting it to start.
Right.
It felt like that was happening in my heart, where it was just like a few pings, a few kicks, and then it just started vibrating a little bit in between.
I see.
But yeah,
I see. And
special experience.
that's a very interesting experience. And was that kickstart that you felt, did that bring you back to your next session, and like were you consistent from then?
Yeah. Like maybe.
Okay. Like
I will say like my first session, I remember being so disappointed.
Right.
Or like disillusioned
Yeah.
in a way, because I, up until that point, would see all these people meditating over so many years, and people would come from all over the world, and I would just see this like eclectic mix of like people from villages, people from Russia, people from Germany, like just all over the world. People would come and close their eyes and sit together.
Yeah.
And in my head, because I couldn't join them, I just assumed like they were having the time of their life.
Like
And I just was like, yeah, they've like achieved the Zen zone.
Right.
They go there, they recharge, they come back, they have all these insights.
Yeah.
And then I sat and I was like, I'm going to experience the Zen zone. And instead, I was like going through my to-do list.
Yeah.
I was thinking about chocolate. Every 3 minutes, I was like, I could really use some chocolate right now. And then the session ended.
Yeah.
And like I remember talking to the other two guys that were there, and afterwards they like double checked. We checked our notes.
Right.
And they're like, did you feel anything?
Yeah.
I was like, not much.
No,
Did you feel anything? It's like,
No.
not really. Maybe something in between. It's
Right.
like, and I think that was like okay. And to get started, like it was recommended to do 2 or 3 sessions to get started. So I remember, out of almost like obligation, or just like, you know, I want to do the three sitting package. Like I was like, okay, I'm ready for the second sitting.
Yeah.
Like let's see what happens. And I think the reason I continued after was I felt it was just like those brief moments, even like 5 seconds of like, oh, okay, like something happened.
Yeah.
Or maybe I don't know where I went.
Right.
That was enough for me to be like, maybe this is worth continuing and exploring.
Yeah. And then you started doing that, and now it's been what, 9 years?
Holy cow. I think so.
I mean that's still like
2013? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
9 years.
I feel so old. Okay.
And then how did so then you must have joined Georgia. You were already in Georgia Tech.
No, I joined Georgia Tech in 2014.
Okay. And then how did you get introduced to this club?
Yeah, I mean, I think I got permission to teach this meditation
Right.
right before my second year. And then I reached out to Jason, who was the president at the time.
Yeah.
I just like looked up, I was like, is there a meditation club?
Yeah.
I was like, that'd be really cool.
Right.
Like I could, I was also looking for a community of people to meditate with.
Yeah.
Reached out to the president, he invited me to a few meetings, and then I was like, I can teach this meditation now, and he made me an officer. I started reserving this room,
Rooms, yeah.
the room that we're currently
Yeah.
in, or actually the room right behind us.
Yeah.
Started doing like Wednesday sessions weekly for a semester. There'd be like some days where no one showed up, some
Right.
days where a lot of people showed
Showed
up.
up, yeah. So, what was the motivation for you to transition from being a student to like a teacher?
I don't think you ever stop becoming a a student.
Student, okay, yeah. True.
I think for me, I can say that now because when you say, like, when I count, and I try not to keep track of like the actual years that I've meditated because it feels like it gives a false sense of like expertise. But yeah, I think I've learned, especially in the past 2 years, where I'm like, becoming an instructor has only served, it has added a different layer of learning.
Right.
And given me opportunities to deepen my own practice, and meditate more, frankly.
Right.
And I think, in fact, it's just been, I just feel like a better student that has gone deeper into it.
I see. Yeah, it does. And you mentioned heartfulness meditation. So for our audience who might not know what it is, could you explain a bit about what heartfulness is and what its origins are?
Yeah. So most of us, I think, have heard of mindfulness. And mindfulness is really, it comes from like Zen and Buddhism, and is the way I think about it is like increasing our sense of awareness of what's around us without a sense of judgment.
Right.
Non-judgmental awareness.
Yeah.
And being in that present moment. For me, I see heartfulness, it comes from Ashtanga yoga, so the 8-step path in yoga, and a form of yoga known as Raja Yoga, yoga of the mind. And it's an adapted version of that for the modern world, and with making it as accessible and still effective as possible. Where we bring, essentially when we meditate, and as the heartfulness practice has a set of practices, and it's almost like a way of life where it's like, how can we choose to live heartfully? And I think of it as a combo where it's like, let's not only be aware of what we are feeling in the moment and what's happening around us, but automatically the more you increase your awareness, naturally the second question comes into your head of like, now that I'm noticing everything around me, how do I respond? And how do I exist in this and be in the situation?
Right.
And I think that's where connecting with our hearts and being centered in our heart becomes like that key, what I see as like that next step.
Right.
In meditation, so one of the practices in heartfulness is known as meditation, relaxation and meditation. The relaxation portion is just to relax our physical body, to help us get relaxed.
Right.
The meditation is about bringing our attention to the heart with the idea that there's a source of light or a divine light that's already present with it.
Okay.
And the main thought there is that the object that we choose to meditate on, it's almost like we become what we think. Right? So you continue to think about this negative self-talk of like, I'm not worth it, I'm not this, I'm not that. That eventually becomes how you see yourself and the rest of the world. You expect the worst out of yourself, you expect the worst out of other people. And then rather than thinking and meditating on like just like being truthful, just being compassionate, just being XYZ characteristic, it's like, how can we become the most subtle version of ourselves as possible? And I see that's where having this idea of light, a light that is so simple and so pure that you can think of it as a divine light.
Okay.
The mere presence of that just already in your heart, where you're just uncovering what's already there in you. For me, that I found that one connects us to like our physical source of life, because like the moment the heart stops beating, like we don't exist, right?
Yeah.
But also the metaphorical connection that we have with other people, like we had a heart to heart, right? Or this person's soft-hearted, nice-hearted,
kind-hearted, I see.
I think that's what I describe in a nutshell. There's so much more to it.
Yeah, true. And we can link resources for people, of course. But yeah, that's a great description. So you mentioned relaxation technique and meditation. So is that what a heartfulness session would look like? Like first, maybe a few minutes we would be relaxing our body, and then the next few minutes would be the actual meditation. So how long are both of these components?
It depends. Like a typical session, where if you're starting out, depending on the situation, tends to be about 20 to 30 minutes.
Right.
With like a 5 to 10 minute relaxation, body scan, followed by that meditation in silence together.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I think what a lot of people get discouraged by when they try to attempt or when they meditate is what exactly you said. Like they feel like nothing's happening and they think they're supposed to achieve this enlightenment or something.
Yeah.
But usually that's what meditation is, right? Like nothing really happens.
Yeah.
Or what do you think? Like how do you describe this? What would someone expect to experience in a normal meditation session? Like,
Yeah. You know, I think often, and I've noticed this happen again and again, where people come in with very high expectations because they've heard something from someone who is like, I had this wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Like, I saw a spirit come down and dance, and like,
yeah,
it's just like, okay, this is not going to happen.
yeah, exactly.
All right, like let's. I think there can be so many different reasons that someone can try to like experience and try out meditation.
Yeah.
But honestly, what I would say is, you know, there's so many studies out there of how even, 10, 15 minutes a day for 8 weeks can change your literal brain structure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think the science is out there.
Yeah.
If you need convincing from a scientific perspective, like there's plenty of science that says we need enough sleep, and I don't think many of us do.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, let's go read the studies.
Yeah.
They're out there.
Yeah.
I think really when you come into meditation, rather than expecting it to be like a spa, to be completely peaceful, to like help you with your anxiety or help you with whatever, going thoughtless, none of that.
Exactly.
I would say think of it as an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it as a chance to exercise a muscle that you haven't exercised before. Right? Like we know that we have different bodies, right? Like different layers to our body, if you will.
Yeah.
Where our physical body, if you don't exercise it, if you don't stretch it, right? Like it starts to tighten up, and it shows up, right? You aren't able to lift things. You don't feel as great as you would if you were exercising regularly, right? Even if it's just like, and even with an exercise, you can go hardcore and be like, do a full all weights workout for like an hour and do barbell lifting, or you could just go for a light walk for 15 minutes, right? There's so much variety.
True.
Mentally, that's also a version of our body, right? That mental self. We have so many things to stimulate ourselves, and I think we probably overstimulate ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we're reading, like I'm listening to podcasts all the time, reading the news all the time, but also just like expanding our knowledge, grappling with philosophy, with ideas, and really stretching the way that the framework that we use to see the world.
Right.
And for me, I see meditation as being this almost space between like that mental self and the emotional self, and it being an exercise for both. Right, where you are training your mind, and especially with heartfulness, you are also training this ability and this capacity to feel, and how to use feeling effectively, and understand feeling, because I think it's a very unexplored part of our being. Right, and
Okay. So, which brings me to my next question. When someone sits to meditate, is there something like a wrong way to meditate? Like, if someone thinks that, oh, I don't think I'm doing this right, like what would you tell them? Is there a right or a wrong way to meditate?
Yeah, I would say there's not. I feel like if you're getting a headache, essentially the one reason why some people get headaches when they start is because at the end of the day you're probably trying too hard. Right? I think that's one way that you could do it. Meditate wrong. Especially, and I can really speak mostly from a heartfulness perspective, but like trying too hard and trying to go thoughtless are two ways that like it's in the nature of our mind to think. And as long as you are alive, you will always be thinking. Right? So rather than trying to go blank, meditation is really an exercise in training ourselves to take this vehicle that we already have and put it towards a path that might get us in a direction that we wanted to get to. Right? And it's hard, right? But going blank is not going to help, right? Because you're putting an unreasonable expectation of something that only happens when you're dead onto your living self to say like, I want to not think about anything. Instead, what we do, at least with heartfulness and in most meditations, is you try to pick an object of meditation, right? And in this meditation, it's something that's so subtle and so light that you can almost get lost in it, right? And because it's the heart, which is the source of feeling, right? It's how we tend to feel most of our emotions. We're moving from a space of like thinking to feeling. And I think it initially will take effort, right? And it takes effort because you have to convince yourself to sit, and often you want to get up because you're not used to it, so it may not feel natural. But even taking the initial step to close your eyes and to sit for a certain period of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, I think it's really just like that willingness and being open, and putting in that like bare minimum effort. But beyond that, I think the two pitfalls to avoid is like trying too hard, and trying to go completely blank.
Okay, cool. So, of course, you have a full-time job and you work as a human capital consultant.
Yeah.
Which is also very
we don't have to get into it, but it's very interesting.
Very interesting role. But because it is such an interesting role, do you see things or have you experienced stuff where you are like, oh, because I meditate, because maybe I'm more self-aware now, or because I'm aware of my thoughts, I can see this helping me right here in this moment?
Yeah, like all the time.
Oh.
All the time. I mean, I think for me now, meditation almost initially it was because of necessity.
Right.
So it was like, I feel like everything in my life is so chaotic, there's just so much happening, and I know I like this, but I need it to be more consistent.
Right.
I got consistent because of necessity, but at least where I'm at now in my life, it has been so helpful that I already know that if I don't do it, the week is going to feel much worse.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to operating at a level of centeredness and clarity and compassion that like I just am so used to. It's like showering every day for a month, and then suddenly going a week without showering, and then you shower again, you're like, I'm not going back, like why did I do that, right? Or and so in general, I feel like, particularly, I mean, I'm in my job, or just as a consultant, I feel that meditation really helps to reset my priorities. Because in any kind of job, you have people you have supervisors, you have supervisors, you have clients, and everyone has their own set of expectations on like what you should be doing, what does success look like, and like what you need to be doing. And I think it's often, especially coming out of college directly into this job, it's so easy to just be like, well, I was told to work on this thing past 5, like I'm gonna keep working on it, and like I'm gonna work on it over the weekend, and like, I'm expected to help out in X, Y, and Z ways, and like to really lose any sense of boundaries, especially now that we're doing like remote work and we've shifted a lot to remote. And I think having almost like a daily touch point with myself, at minimum, I try to meditate at least like 10, 15 minutes. There are days where I sometimes still miss it, but it's now such a regular occurrence in my life that those are just anomalies. And it's more of like, this is like brushing my teeth and taking showers. It's like ready and rhythmic.
Yeah.
But with such consistency with meditation, it's just like, I have a regular touch point where I'm checking in with myself and have a chance to almost reflect. Even when I don't want to reflect, it's hard to meditate and not have things come up where it's like, you shouldn't have said that, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you got upset when you shouldn't have. Like, that was on you.
Yeah.
Or it's like, how are you in this situation? Like, you're feeling so stressed, but like, do you realize that you said yes to 5 different requests when you knew that you couldn't make it? You knew you had another commitment to somebody else, and now you feel terrible about everything.
Okay.
Right? And so when you have that on a daily basis,
right,
it gives you an opportunity to like self-correct and like course-correct yourself from moment to moment. And I feel like that's the biggest thing that meditation has given me. It's like, when I look at other people who haven't experienced meditation and maybe don't have that as a regular part of their life, I notice it's usually like, it's those who have something that's introspective that maybe feel something similar. But often like, it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and to think that like, I'm supposed to be doing certain things. I'm supposed to like, and to just keep going in that cycle. But it's the people that have like a good journaling habit, or that are just go on long walks, that are more, have some kind of introspection built in as a natural part of what they do, whether it's like hikes and stuff. I think I notice in them that the thing that I've noticed that meditation has done for me, which is give me an opportunity to notice something and self-correct.
Yeah.
And because it's become so natural, and it's less of this like, I have to do it, let me schedule it sort of thing. It's for me like a thing that I just generally like to do in the morning, or I like to do when I automatically feel stressed in the middle of the day. It's like one of my built-in reactions. Because of that, I don't have to, it feels less of a chore, and it becomes automatic.
A lot of people, including me, I think the issue they have with meditation is like being consistent is hard.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason is because they don't see any results, which are very tangible. But even then, what tips would you have for people who find it hard to be consistent with this?
Well, let me ask you, like, what do you think of when you think of consistency? Like, what does consistent meditation mean to you?
I think just showing up. It doesn't include what really goes on in that session. I mean, of course, you should meditate, close your eyes, and like do the bare minimum. But I think showing up and like doing the necessary stuff, I think that is consistency. Because I think once you take care of that, I think the rest follows. That's what I have experienced from like yoga, because I do more of that. It's literally showing up on the mat. Because once you show up on the mat, you will do the whatever asana you're supposed to. Same goes with like going to the gym. It's just showing up in your with the mat or whatever, and like once you show up, you will do it. That's what I have experienced. What do you think?
I agree so much. I think wholehearted. I think. Yeah, I mean, when we're thinking about consistency, a big thing for me is like it's like taking down our expectations, right? Like remove the expectation of this is what I need to achieve with meditation, because when you've already made the decision for whatever reason, maybe we all come in with certain goals, right? You want to sleep better, you want to deal with like some anxious thoughts that you have, and just have it as like something in your life, right? You want to become more focused, whatever it is. I think it's important to like write it down in your journal and be like, okay, for the next week, I'm going to try this, right? But forget about that goal once you start, right? For the next week or for the next month, just have your goal be something small and something, and again, like you said, showing up.
Yeah.
I think showing up should be, it's so interesting because we talk a lot about like exercise, and when I started running, and I had another friend tell me once where it's like, with running, progress feels so linear.
Yeah.
Like, I run consistently 3 times a week, and like by week 4 or 5, like I'm already doing better than the previous.
Yeah.
And like you can tell that you're getting better because you can like have a faster time, go a longer distance, etc. And same thing with working out, like you can see the weight number increase. I think with meditation, it's different, like, and the protocol is different.
Yeah.
The way that you should understand it is also different. And for me, I think part of it is, it shouldn't be like, oh, went from 5 to 30 minutes. I think that's part of it. But there are going to be days where I still just meditate for 10 minutes and I'm like, I can't, that's all I got, you know, and like, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Because for me, meditation, I'm going to go on a tangent here, right? But like, one thing I'm realizing more, and I felt like this as I started running more, because I stopped driving and I was like looking on the roads and could see trees change colors and like change with the seasons. I realized like our world, the earth that we live in, is cyclical.
Yeah.
Right? Like season cycle, life and death.
Yeah.
Like the bug dies, the flower dies, goes back into the soil, becomes the fertilizer that we use for the next plant, right? Like everything is very cyclical. Every year we're going from like that feeling of that sense of hibernation to the sense of spring and joy to the sense of like that deep hot summers, right? And this is again North Hemisphere. But like I think as I started running, I realized that like I think things like breathing and things like meditation, particularly with heartfulness, that's so like a meditation that's in tune with your feelings, you automatically, that will be a more cyclical process, right? And you're going to, with cyclical processes, we often tend to feel, because we're a very like linear society, we think that growth just happens like on top of each other.
Correct.
If anything were to like go down, the market goes down and everyone freaks out, right? So it's like,
you think it's a failure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are very like linear thinkers often as a society.
Right.
And so to, I think, get in touch with that indigenous wisdom, if you will. I've been reading from some, like, listening to some podcasts and reading some books, but again, what does nature and earth teach us?
Yeah.
And I feel like meditation inherently is so natural to us that like we go through cycles. And it makes us more in tune with our cycles.
Right.
Which often means that we feel like we're not making progress because you feel summer. You feel at the top of your game.
Yeah.
You feel like I'm running the best I can run.
Yeah.
And then like, at least for me, it was more like fall.
Right.
You feel like fall, and then summer hit. In spring, you're feeling great. Summer hits, and it's like dead heat, and everything sucks, and it's really hot, and you're really tired. My times went down and everything, but like, mixing metaphors. But it's like you might feel like at the epitome of peace.
Right.
But then it'll just be an opening to a new beginning. Right? And then you start the cycle again and again. Yeah, so with that, I think like, that's one major thing that I felt is like, understanding and accepting the cyclical nature of what you're about to embark on, knowing that like, you will feel progress, you will feel like you're getting better, but you're also bound to feel that you're getting worse, because your emotions are also feeling that way. You don't start a semester or start a job and just keep feeling better and better and better. You're gonna have days where like you have an extreme deadline where everything feels like really on the line. You're gonna have days where you have like great presentations and you feel like on the top of the world. And then you're gonna followed by like a month of feeling like you just started and you have no idea what to do and where to start. And I think meditation is an aid in helping you feel aware and responding to those emotions.
Right.
So it will naturally ebb and flow based on what you need in that moment too.
Wow, that was a fantastic answer, and like I loved how your eyes just lit up while you were speaking this, and I think that's a very profound thought, that we should think of meditation and maybe life in general as a very cyclical function as opposed to the linear stacking that we are used to thinking about. That's really interesting, and that actually reminds me of like my journey with meditation.
Please tell me more. I will flip the table. Tell me more about your journey.
So I think I'll combine meditation and yoga both together.
Okay. How did you get started?
With yoga, I mean, it's being an Indian, it's always around you.
Yeah.
Like in school, you attend a few sessions, or like it's here and there. You see Baba Ramdev doing things on TV. But I think I started yoga last year, 2020. At that point in my life where I think it really came to me, I was like mentally in shambles, and I joined like a class online, which the teacher is in India. I think, again, like coming back to the same thing, the one thing that I think of when I think of yoga is me being consistent. Like I show up on the map every single class, on the mat every single class.
Yeah.
And again, like consistency and awareness, the thing you spoke about. So what happens in yoga or meditation, it's like you just become more aware of your body, and since that's like a bridge to your mind, because again, you can control your body much more than you can control your mind. So I think it's all about, I think life is just all about being aware or giving a part of your attention to something.
Yeah.
And when you meditate or do yoga, I think you bring that awareness within yourself.
Yeah.
And there's a saying in Hinduism where it's like Har Har Mahadev, which means every person is Mahadev, which is Lord Shiva or Adi Yogi, the first yogi. So when we bring that attention to ourselves and we bring that awareness within ourselves, we are actually bringing awareness to the whole universe, because like God is universe and we are also God, and we are bringing the attention within ourselves. So that's a very convoluted answer to
Yeah.
your question. So that's about the journey of consistency and awareness. About meditation, I started again like in school and all. Teachers make you meditate and like you do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I did schooling in the US, so like there was, at least when I was there, no.
Oh, I have attended like both a convent school,
Yeah.
a very Catholic Christian school, and then it was a very like
Interesting.
Hindu school. So
What kind of meditations would you do?
it was a very like there was no type to it. We just like they were like okay,
Silent?
sit with your eyes closed, hands on your lap.
Nice.
Same with same with the school which I attended later. But so the meditation was like a part of my life, but it was more like a thing you do at school or whatever. I think I seriously started meditating because of this club. Because I
Where's that
started
meditation
coming
club?
here.
Check it out.
You should join. And it has been pretty interesting. I've had some interesting experiences. Like I remember this one time where I felt like there was an big orb of white light,
Yeah.
and I was like just staring at it as I was trying to be heartful. There have been times where I felt nothing, as you said, where I felt restless. But as you said, it's all a part of the journey, right? Like there's no end goal. People think there's an end goal to meditation, or even for yoga, people think there's like an asana which you should achieve. But it's not about that end goal. It's like the journey itself is what meditation or yoga or whatever it is, and that journey itself is the prayer. So there's nothing to achieve.
Yeah.
That doing that thing itself, again, showing up, that in itself is tapasya or prayer or whatever. So that's how I look at it.
I love that. We'll see where that goes.
I see. Cool. But this is such a fitting end to our conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep it going.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, this is totally random, and I guess this is just how my brain works. It's funny that it's called Talk to the Moon because Suraj in Hindi means sun.
Oh yeah.
So it's really like talking to the sun, like.
But we spoke about cyclical phenomena, and like after the sun comes the moon.
Duality. Yeah, love
duality. That. So.
The other thing I would say is.
But
like,
that's a good observation. I love it. And you know, Rohit also. I mean, one of the meanings of Rohit is the first ray of the sun.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting choice of moon then.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
The last thing I'd say, because this has been, especially if you're thinking about meditation or if you've meditated before, I love this TED Talk by BJ Fogg, who is a professor at Stanford and like does a lot of research on motivation. His whole thing is about tiny habits, and I think a big thing for me that's been like a refreshing perspective for the new year has been to just like lower the bar and celebrate any win.
Okay.
Right, and like it's almost like a game with yourself of like how little of a thing can I celebrate today. You know, I woke up today, I showered, like let's celebrate that.
Yeah.
You know, I like took a walk.
Yeah.
I took a breath of fresh air, like let's celebrate that.
Yeah.
So the same thing with meditation. I think wherever you are on the spectrum of like whether you're super regular or not regular at all or haven't tried it before, we're gonna give you a small win right now.
Yes.
We're gonna take 30 seconds.
Cool.
I probably won't be timing it. We're gonna take like a moment to pause. You could be listening to this in your car. It's just like, we're gonna take a moment. You can close your eyes if you like. Take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. Bring your awareness towards your heart. Take a moment to welcome your heart. Just try to feel that it's wrapped in love. Let yourself loosen any tension. Let's take another deep breath in. Gently open your eyes when you're ready. Even listening along to that, you took a moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do suddenly feel like I don't know, something. Yeah, can't articulate it, but
It shows for me that when I was talking, I got too excited.
excited, yeah.
Because I could feel the difference,
Yeah.
right? Of how that sense of, we just meditated before the interview, but like that feeling that I had of centeredness and like not needing to say too much,
Yeah.
and just sort of saying exactly what I need to, it kind of went out the wayside because I got really excited.
Yeah.
We took even just like literally 2 breaths.
Yeah.
And I suddenly can feel myself come back to it, and I'm like, oh, this is what stability feels
It's like the dust has settled kind of feeling. And I agree, because when we started, your voice was much lower. And I was like, oh, I hope the camera captures your voice. But later I was like, oh, this is not going to be a problem. He's much louder, yeah. But yeah, I think it again shows the cycle of
We live, we learn, we
cyclically,
adjust,
yeah.
and then we bring ourselves back.
Yeah.
With that, thank you.
But thank you so much for agreeing to do this and trusting me with this video podcast or chat show or whatever.
Best of luck. I
Thank
hope
you.
it goes really well. I
Thank
can't
you.
wait until you like get bigger and better people.
Thank you. I know.
I'll be like, I was the 3rd / maybe 5th person on this podcast. I'll be like, that'll be my claim to fame.
Oh god. But thank you so much, and see you on the next episode. Bye.